Since my arrival in the diocese in 1999, I have very much appreciated and supported the mission of our Camp and Conference Center. Chanco is one of our most important spiritual assets in Southern Virginia. This past year, I made an effort to spend time at Chanco, and especially during the summer camp session, and to understand its culture. Let me tell you what I have learned. First and most importantly, that the Chanco Board is a group of highly dedicated individuals whose passion for the facility runs deep. I have also learned that Chanco has some real financial challenges, most particularly in the conference center area. While the summer camp program continues to be well attended and full of life, the conference center ministry is anemic and struggling. Also, the entire Chanco facility is looking at some physical plant challenges. And please remember, your diocesan budget still shoulders $350,000 of debt on Chanco. Needless to say, the difficult economy we find ourselves in today has had a negative impact on almost all camp and conference centers within the church, so we are not alone with this. But we must spend the next few years intentionally evaluating the challenges of Chanco and investigating new opportunities. Is Chanco, in its present condition, adequate for our needs? How does Chanco fit into the overall strategic direction of the mission of our diocese? What is our long-term vision for Chanco? We have some real work to do around these questions. Now, in the meantime, as we move forward with our discernment, what the board and I need you to do is use the facility. It is your camp and conference center, and it must be supported by you. Please take this request home to your respective parishes. While there are things in our common life that frankly keep me up at night, there are also many things I find myself enthusiastically celebrating about our diocese and very, very proud of. One is the strength of our African American congregations in Southern Virginia. Our diocese has something unique. We have a legacy of strong black leadership in the Episcopal Church dating back over 100 years. Because of the life and ministry of people like James Solomon Russell, black Episcopalians in Southern Virginia have impacted the life of the entire Episcopal Church. Now that is rather amazing when you think about it. When you consider the fact that our area was also historically one of the worst areas for human slavery and for the social oppression of blacks in post-emancipated America. The evils of human oppression are deep within the roots of our culture in this part of the world. Make no mistake about it. In my mind, this historical reality testifies to two powerful truths. The first is the remarkable redemptive power of Jesus to liberate the hearts and minds of all of us. The power of God to resurrect us from our own state of death. And the second are the remarkable strength, faithfulness, vision, and courage of black Episcopalians in our diocese. We truly have much to celebrate and to be thankful for. In fact, our own James Solomon Russell will more than likely be included in the new Holy Women and Holy Men by the summer of 2012. With these things in mind, I asked our council designers to give us an opportunity to celebrate the gifts of black Episcopalians have brought to us in our common life. Since this weekend marks the celebration of one of our most important American saints, Absalom Jones, it seemed high time that we should do that here together. And so tomorrow in our closing worship, we will. As a final comment, let me just say that I hope and pray that none of us here are under the illusion that racism against people of color has ceased to be an issue in Southern Virginia. It is. And it is essential that we continue to come to terms with the sin of racism across all aspects of our common life, within the church and outside of the church. As part of our baptismal responsibility, we strive to remove those evils that bar people from the love of God. Later in this council, I hope you will listen carefully to the report of the R1 Committee as they work on your behalf to creatively address racism in our diocese in the future. Before I move on, I also want to tell you that I think this next year will be our opportunity to address another difficult issue in our common life, sexuality. It's time for us to open the conversation on how and in what manner we will move forward on this issue in Southern Virginia, specifically in regard to the blessing of unions between our gay and lesbian brothers and sisters. Frankly, I am not yet sure what form this conversation should take. I've been watching with keen interest what our friends in the Central Diocese have been doing, and there are some things we can learn from them. But we must also find our own way. Later this spring, in consultation with the deans, I will appoint a special committee task force to explore options and recommend a way forward for this next year. If you will indulge your bishop a bit longer, I would now like us to step to a larger observation platform and reflect on where we are as a church amidst the cultural landscape. The clergyman scholar Sam Pascoe once said this: Christianity started out in Palestine as a fellowship. It moved to Greece and became a philosophy. It moved to Italy and became an institution. It moved to Europe and became a culture. It moved to America and became an enterprise. Most of us are keenly aware that in the last few years, Christianity has been a failing enterprise in our culture. Like G.C. Murphy's, remember them? Or Sears, we have been losing business. The number of people who practice their faith regularly has rapidly declined. The Evangelical Conservative Church alone has lost more members in the last 10 years than the entire population of the Episcopal Church. But we in the Episcopal Church have certainly suffered a similar fate relative to our side, as have all denominations. When I was younger, back in the 60s, I'd like to say 80s, but 60s, the Episcopal Church was experiencing rapid growth. Being an Episcopalian had a certain kind of social power about it within culture. It was, as Garrison Keillor once quipped, the church of wingtips and scotch and soda. All a church had to do was simply open its doors and people would come streaming in. Well, that generation and that time in history are long gone now and will never, ever return. Certainly not in our lifetime. We are no longer a destination church, and we certainly no longer enjoy the magnetism of social prominence. Unfortunately, as the culture changed in this country, the church continued to do business as usual. While it is fair to say that we remained progressive in our social ethics and theology, we did not engage in new forms of evangelism or in finding new models for ministry and community, certainly not on any large scale. The results are evident. Our pews aren't as full, and the membership we do have is becoming increasingly older. While there are some exceptions, wonderful exceptions, especially in the highly populated areas of our diocese, the majority of our congregations have been de-evolving. As a result, ministry can be more about palliative care and self-protection than it is about mission.